In a previous video, I discussed the history of a landmark period in cinema called the Blaxploitation era, and during the research of that topic, I came across this article on Wikipedia and found out that there are many other exploitation films I have never heard about. Because of that discovery, I have made it my mission to explore and look back at the different, weird and absurd exploitation genre. And to extend from the Blaxploitation video, let's talk about the holiest genre of all, Nunsploitation cinema. So what is Nunsploitation and where did it first originate? The first Nunsploitation media wasn't a movie. The obsession of nuns can be traced back to 1353 and authors Giovanni Boccaccio's The Decameron, which told the story about a young man who pretends to be deaf so he can get close to the forbidden walls of the convent and see what nuns were really like. As the story progresses, the women become infatuated with the man and explore their sexual curiosity. Then, in 1796, a novel by Denis Diderot follows a French girl called Suzanne Simonin who is forced to enter a Catholic convent. So the mysteries of the convent and nun lifestyle became a curiosity. And the first Nunsploitation film believed to be conceived was back in 1922 and was a Swedish Denmark silent film called Häxan, Witchcraft Through the Ages, and was written and directed by Benjamin Christensen. The film is split up in 4 parts that follows different narratives, but stick to similar themes about superstitions, demons and witchcraft. Not primarily focusing on the nun aspect but rather witches, that is why 1947's Black Narcissus is also considered the grand priest of Nunsploitation cinema. Black Narcissus was directed by Michael Powell and Emmerich Pressburger and is about a group of nuns who set up hospitals in rural parts of the Himalayas, but instead of throwing charity to the locals, they instead throw themselves to a local British agent called Mr. Dean. While Häxan Witchcraft Through the Ages was technically the first movie, Black Narcissus probably became the movie the genre followed the most, because the idea about repressed sexual feelings became a key theme for many Nunsploitation films. Sex, torture, lesbianism and macho insecurity became the themes that would dominate most, if not all, Nunsploitation movies. Films such as The Devils, Love Letters of a Portuguese Nun and The School of the Holy Beast are some movies that follow that trademark. But it was until the late 1960s right through to the 70s that Nunsploitation became a mainstay in movie theatres, but not for Hollywood. Because the pioneers of the genre came from Italy and Spain, such as filmmakers as Italian Giulio Baretti and Spanish Jesus Franco. And it shouldn't be a surprise that this specific genre came from countries where the Catholic religion is thrive around both nations, because these movies in some way became criticisms of the Catholic religion and the corrupt underbelly within. Movies such as Joe D'Amato's The Nuns of St. Archangel follows a 16th century convent where the head nun, also known as Mother Superior, is dying, and the church wants to replace that head nun with another nun called Mother Julia, because she is from a wealthy background, and by doing this, the church would inherit a large plot of land from the nun's wealthy father. To speed up the process of Mother Superior's death, Mother Julia tries to poison Mother Superior, and even when she is caught, the church turns a blind eye because the plot of land was more important. These films criticised the church's strict rulings to the nuns, but hardly challenged the priests who would take their power as a way to take advantage over young women. Nunsploitation became a tool to tell stories about the nuns being forced into celibacy and how the natural human emotion for lust should be accepted. But Nunsploitation isn't the saviour and voice for nuns everywhere, because in reality these films were sleazy and played up the fetishes of torture and lesbianism shown by 1973's The Demons, directed by Jess Franco. And about 99% of these films were directed by men who can never know what it feels like to be a nun. That is why a majority of Nunsploitation films often have the antagonist as women, most notably a jealous Mother Superior. Films like 1971's The Nun had the Mother Superior be sexually attracted to another nun that doesn't feel the same way, and in the end this nun is saved by her male lawyer. It is as if these films want to criticise the behaviour nuns had to go through but can't go all the way. Instead they double down more on the sexual iconography. But that isn't to say these films cannot be powerful and tell a compelling story. The king of Nunsploitation films, Ken Russell's The Devil, is an example of that. Here's the IMDb summary. In 17th century France, Father Urbain Grandier seeks to protect the city of Loudon from the corrupt establishment of Cardinal Richelieu. Hysteria occurs within the city when he is accused of witchcraft by a sexually repressed nun. It follows the common theme that many nunsploitation films have, the mother superior becoming jealous and taken over by his sexual desires, but the movie also challenges the men and the hysteria religion can cause. The priest, Father Grandier, is confronted by his actions of impregnating one of the town's men's daughters, and at the end the priest is to be cast as a devil and burnt alive. It plays a compelling parallel to Jesus. Both the priest Grandier and Jesus suffer great torture for their beliefs and ultimately are killed for that. Both in a way die for the sins of their people, but as for Grandier, his death just causes much more pain to the town he holds dear. It becomes a compelling story that doesn't rely on the nudity of the women but holds its strength in its story. If there is one movie I recommend watching, it is Ken Russell's The Devil. When it comes to nunsploitation films, it becomes clear that many of them take place during the Inquisition, a period of time that saw many innocent women be tortured and burnt alive for being accused of being a witch. So are many of these movies based on real life or just made up fiction? Well, the aforementioned The Devil claims to be based on a true story and has some historical facts. The film was based on a book by Aldos Huxley called The Devils of Loudon and is about the reported cases of demonic possessions that apparently took place during the 17th century at a French convent. But because a mass of nunsploitation films take place during the Inquisition, many of the movies can follow that historical fact of women being classed as witches, and the studios use that as the cornerstone of their stories. Nuns who are oversexual have been tainted by the devil and have now become a possessed witch. Jess Franco's The Demons plays into that narrative. But that's only talking about nunsploitation within Europe, because what is interesting is nunsploitation made a mark in Japan. Japan became infatuated with the genre and started to create their own nunsploitation movies, such as Koyo Ohara's sisters Lucia's Dishonor, Hiroshi Mukai's Nun Secret, and Masaru Konoma's Cloistered Nun, Runa's Confession. Japan historically was never a country dominated by Christianity, but in the 1500s and 1600s, Japan did encounter Christian missionaries from Portugal to change that, and if anyone has seen Martin Scorsese's Silence, you know how that turned out. But this allowed Japan in the 1970s and 80s to create shocking and sexual content that criticizes religion without actually attacking Japan's most sacred beliefs. So, what impact has nunsploitation made between that short period of films from the 60s and 1970s? Well, nuns in movies are everywhere when looking at the horror genre. Paco Plaza's 2017 Veronica and Corin Hardy's 2018 The Nun are two that immediately come to mind when thinking of nuns. However, most nun movies in horror don't follow those iconic themes from yesteryear of sex or criticizing the idea of organized religion. You also have 2017's The Little Hours, directed by Jeff Boehner, that actually takes part from the novel we spoke about earlier, The Decameron. And we had Robert Rodriguez's 2010 Machete that features a gun-wielding nun played by Lindsay Lohan. In the end, the nunsploitation genre was lewd and overtly sexual, with many movies having to be censored or not allowed to be shown in specific countries. But what is important is that these films gave many women in the film industry starring roles and gave them a career path. Women such as Vanessa Redgrave, who gave an amazing, chilling performance in The Devil. So the genre had its benefits and also its negatives. Nunsploitation was a genre that broke barriers with its sexual content and taboo subjects. It gave women more leading roles and talked about important issues about celibacy and on occasion the corrupt nature of organised religion. While the movies might not be of a high standard, I do believe nunsploitation to be a genre that you should all give a go to watch.